Okay, my name is Mary Ellen Rogowski. I'm the chairman of the Orange County Industrial Development Agency, and I would like to call the meeting of December 10th, 2020 to order. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and everybody I'll start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, next up is the roll call. Mr. Diana?
Here.
Mr. DeSalvo?
Present.
Mr. Brescia?
Here.
Mr. Gatos?
Here.
Mr. McCary? I see you, John. Are you here?
Yes.
Okay. And Ms. Quinn?
Here.
Okay, thank you. And then we have Lori Villasuso, our Chief Executive Officer, Vinnie Cozzolino, Managing Director, Melanie Schouten, Chief Operating Officer, Ed J, the CFO, Kevin Dowd, Attorney, and Russ Genzel, Attorney. So, okay, so let me get the updated agenda here. Hang on one second. And then up is the approval of the minutes. We have 2 minutes that we need approval for. The first is for the November 12th full board meeting, which during my review appeared fine, but are there any questions or comments with respect to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve them as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Ed. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good. Secondly, a December special board meeting essentially for attorney-client privilege. And again, I think those are fine. Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve those as presented.
So moved. Second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? Okay, thank you. So next up is the financial reports and requests for payments. Ed?
All right. Starting off with the first chart is cash balance at the end of November. Total is just over $6 billion. Okay. Second chart is the IDA expenses. We received $22,000. I'll go through that a little more detail at the end. And we spent the $23,000, which was the proof at the last board meeting. The Accelerator, you see, we count now for the month of November. The net effect, we had 8,000 came in for client rent and 162,000 of expenses. No comments on that. Here's the next chart is the statement of net assets. Nothing unusual on that. And finally on this one here is the we count the receipts and the vouchers. We received $12,000 for recapture of sales tax exemption, which below you'll see I'm asking for payment back to the New York State Department of Taxation. And
and I'm sorry, 100% of that has to go back to the state?
Correct.
Okay.
And we have 2 fees came in for $5,000 each, and I got on the other vouchers, they're pretty much as standard monthly ones, except for 2 I'll bring up is we're paying for the Friends of the Orange County Youth Bureau agency activity, requesting $13,635, and we closed out the Orange Tower Drive labor audit escrow, and there was $375 remaining on that, which I'm returning to them. That completes the financial report for the IDA.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the financial reports as presented.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And anybody opposed? No? Okay, good. New and unfinished business chairman's report. As usual, the chairman has nothing to report other than to wish everybody a happy holiday. And then we'll go on to the chief executive report. Lori.
Melanie, can you let Rick in?
He is not on yet.
Okay, well, I will start then. So the Rick Menicosi from the Highland Falls Southgate Flats project will be joining us to give us a status update on his project. But until he joins, I'll go through sort of my report for this month. So first and foremost, once again, we are meeting via Zoom because the governor has extended his executive order through January 1st to allow public bodies to meet via remote and streaming options. Secondly, in your packet, you received the 2021 calendar for, again, it's the second Thursday of every month, 2 o'clock. We had to put the caveat on there that some may be held via Zoom because of the COVID pandemic. If, of course, we're back in normal times, at some point during next year, we'll resume back at the 4 Crotty Lane place or place of business. We'll also publish that meeting schedule on our website, and will also be available on our, it will also be published in the paper. In addition to being on our website, we'll make sure that it's published by all methods that we were required to do. The Orange Inn public hearing took place on Tuesday, December 8th. It was hosted via Zoom. It was a live webinar and live streamed. 5 public attendees, Amanda Dana, Mike Torelli, and Bill Fioravani spoke in support of the project. So that will likely be before this board in January for its final approval, pending, of course, receipt of all the necessary documents. That, just as a reminder, is the expansion and renovation of what's now known as Limoncello's in Goshen. To go back a little bit to Ed's report, the Sentinel Realty, the item in the vouchers this month that has to be returned to the state was because their sales tax exemption expired, and sort of unwittingly they continued to use it. So again, following our necessary procedures, we recaptured the amount that they exceeded, which was $12,286.45. That will be divided among the affected jurisdictions, and we will send in the appropriate documents to the state to let them know, along with the check, so that we've refunded those fees.
So Lori, then that means that the state will divvy up to the other authorities what they're owed. So the county and the town, let's say.
I believe that we had to do the math over who gets what, but it's my understanding, I'm looking at the documents that we have to fill in right now, it's that we give it the whole amount to the state, and then they do.
We give one check, and there's a section they ask to show the distribution between.
Okay, so they do the distribution then. Correct. Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next in your packets was a response letter from Craftify. If you'll recall, late last year, I think it's 2021 already, apparently. So earlier this year, we had an issue with Craftify, which wanted to terminate their benefits, and we had sent a letter requesting that they provide us with the employment information, because having canceled their benefits, they were no longer beholden to us in terms of the reporting metrics, and they availed themselves of the sales tax, but weren't going to have to basically report on their employment figures thereafter. So they wrote what I think was actually a quite reasonable letter in response, which was to say that they happily will comply with any requests we have of their jobs figures at any given time, and that if they aren't able to maintain their employment figures, that they've already exceeded their employment figures, but if they aren't able to maintain them, that they could, that they understand that we could recapture, which again, I think in terms of what we were expecting to do, I think that was a reasonable response. Did anybody, board members, have any questions or comments on that?
No, I'm glad they've had a change of heart.
Me too, me too. I will say, I see that Rick Menicosi has joined us. So,
hi, Lori.
Yeah.
Hi, Vinny.
Hi. So I'd like to turn it over. Rick, so we'd asked you here today because we were just wanting to get an update on your project. I know that you were approved earlier this year, and obviously everything changed in our world as we know it. So we just wanted to kind of get a touch base on what the expectation is, where this project stands now, what your expectation is, of course, as an estimate as to how it's going to move forward and when.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me to your meeting. Happy holidays to everyone. Yeah, times have certainly changed, haven't they? But hopefully we are on the cusp of seeing the possibility of getting back to a new normal here as this vaccine gets implemented across the country and across the world. We remain very, very excited about the Thayer Hotel and Spa that we're building in Highland Falls. We've not lost our enthusiasm at all, nor have we lost the momentum of our planning efforts for the building. We continue to work with our architects and our designers and our other construction partners for the development of the project. As most of you know on the call, we own the Thayer Hotel as well, the Thayer Hotel at West Point. And so we've been able to monitor the hospitality business and the food and beverage business extremely closely over the course of the last 10 months since the pandemic began, or at least we became aware of the pandemic. And we've seen our current business erode about 75% at the Thayer Hotel. Our revenues year over year are down 75%, which is extremely significant. But the good news is, and we also, I think I'm in my last briefing to the board, I mentioned that I'm the CEO of the Thayer Leader Development Group as well, which actually drives on-site meetings and leader development at the Thayer. The Thayer is the host, as well as the Thayer Spa and Resort will be the host of the Thayer Leadership Development Group's growing business. So the good news for us is we have our finger directly on the pulse. We have complete visibility, not only to what the world market looks like, not only what the national market looks like, but more specifically what our very local market looks like, and how the return of consumer confidence will impact not only the Thayer Hotel, but also Thayer Leader Development Group, as well as the construction, development, and grand opening of the Thayer Resort and Spa. So we, at this point here, typically in the cycle of our business, we typically December, January, and February, based on the fact that there's typically 4 feet of snow on the ground and there's nothing really to do at West Point, our business cycle has it such that our occupancy falls off during this time of year, and then we start to pick up again in March. So with the vaccine now about to be announced and publicly available within the country, and the hopeful rise of consumer confidence and willingness of our fellow Americans to take the vaccine, we will see an increase in that consumer confidence, an increase in corporate confidence, keeping in mind, of course, corporations have the risk of liability of forcing their people to go to a conference where they might get sick. So there's a lot of caution there, but we'll see that happening hopefully at the end of March, beginning of April. And I suspect, based on all that we're following and all the information, is that we'll see a meaningful confidence increase sometime around September of 21, where we're going to see people starting to have great degrees of confidence to getting back into hotels, back into conferencing. Herd immunity, hopefully by then, will have had taken place if everything tracks the way the medical experts are hoping. And we'll get back to some level of normalcy. And that will be a great green light from where we stand for our business to then try to recover, not try to recover, but begin to recover back to the levels that we had pre-pandemic. And that will be the litmus test for when we're ready to begin our construction on our new development. So if all things line up the way I am hopeful that they will, then I think sometime around September, October of this coming year would be a reasonable expectation for us to begin engaging again in the construction of the project, such that when we deliver the project, we want to be able to deliver it to, to be able to be consumed. We don't want to have a building in Highland Falls sitting there with no revenue, with significant debt on it that would then potentially be, not sustainable. So we have to make a very, very strong business decision, and it has to be conservative and well thought out. And it has to have the ability to be sustainable, as I said. So that all said, I'll pause for a second and I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
I don't have any questions. Anybody else have any?
It sounds good. I agree with his philosophy
Yeah.
there. I think it's going to happen that way. And, you know, people are going to be itching to get out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I never, you know, expected this long, but I think we're almost there.
Yeah. Okay.
I got a couple questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Rick. I hope your Thanksgiving was well. I just have a few questions for you.
Sure.
So one, are you still going to be planning to rent the Christiana Motel right now? Because I noticed as I've driven by, we've seen the for rent sign there.
Yeah, so the storefront is not for rent only. We only
No,
have
I know the rooms
seven.
are.
We have seven of the apartments that we went in and found. I think there's 18 apartments there that we found in a condition that is suitable for renting. But we're not going to rent it in the same way that the former owner did with transient, less desirable folks into the asset. But we have considered for the next 6 months, we still have to pay our taxes to the Great Village of Highland Falls, which are significant. And it would be extremely helpful to us to have some sort of revenue generated in order to be able to do that. So as of right now, the answer is yes, we do have intentions to rent 7 or so of the rooms at that building. We don't call it the Christiana, by the way. We just call it 467.
Right. All right. Well, maybe you can come up with a new name for it.
Yeah.
That's the first question. The second question is while we're talking about the Great Village of Highland Falls, I know that there's been some correspondence between the village and you and the company that we need to, rectify. That would be great. The last comment I have is that it'd be really, really great if we could do something just to do a quick little tidy up on the property. I completely understand that you're somewhat under construction in the very, very beginning stages. We cleared out some of the property. But if you could just have someone go there and maybe just tidy it up before wintertime, before the snow flies, that would be fantastic. And again, not looking for, you to move mountains, but just tidy it up as we have a game coming this weekend. I know there's no fans, but there will still be several hundreds, maybe a few thousand, midshipmen coming in and other people going to the game. So, and just for the regular residents in the community, it does sometimes tend to get a little, an eyesore a little bit. So if you can have anybody just give a little attention to the area, it would be very, very appreciative.
Thank you for that. Can you be more specific for me, Jimmy, in regard to what it is that you're seeing is the problem? Because my folks,
well,
I haven't been to West Point, unfortunately, since February, but the folks who are sending me photos regularly, and they're telling me that, I'm talking about on Main Street, I know that a couple pieces of the metal every once in a while have come off and we picked those up, but I'm not really read into any other challenges. So I appreciate you bringing it to my attention.
I could probably take it offline. And if you want, I can get you some information. I'll get you some photos if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be helpful because the folks that I've got on the ground are telling me that the landscapers are handling it and cleaning it up, tidying it up, picking up the trash. So if they're telling me something that isn't accurate, I'm pretty far away, and I'd like to know that. So
no problem.
If that's the case, you bringing that to my attention. But
they're getting paid to do it. I'll get in touch with you.
Yeah.
I'll get in touch with you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, sure.
Okay.
That was all I had, Chairwoman.
Okay, Jim. Lori, so is there any action that we need to take today, or?
Nope, no action. It's just to provide an update. And I think it's especially important too with Rick having the ownership in the Thayer Hotel for everyone to understand. As we start our audit process for 2020, I think that we're going to have a lot of hotel operators who have IDA benefits who will be in the same position that Rick in with Thayer. So it's also good to hear firsthand that, there are a lot of businesses, especially in the hospitality industry, who are going to fall short on their employee numbers this year. So, but no, it was just an update. So Rick, I do want to thank you for your time to join us today so we can all be on the same page and just make sure that we're all aware of your project. And so unless anybody has any other questions for Rick, you don't have to stay and listen to the rest of my report. You're welcome to go.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. And I hope you all have a wonderful holiday. And beat Navy.
Thank you.
That's it.
See you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
So then moving on, just a few more items. The NYTT project was one that we discussed last month. They had fallen behind in their taxes to a point where we got a notice from the county that they were going into a foreclosure action. Their pilot, just to remind everyone, does end December 31st. So there was no termination really that we could do, but Harris Beach will be sending letters to the affected taxing jurisdictions to ensure that the second the property is finished with its pilot, it goes back and fully taxable and onto the tax rolls. So we will have that. The next is the Orange Tower Drive, which again, Ed had mentioned in his report, has its coming to its final phases with its sales tax and mortgage recording tax exemption. Orange Tower Drive is in the town of Wallkill, and they didn't support a pilot, so that's only sales and mortgage tax, but that's why he's getting his escrow payment back this year. Also, just to circle back on something that we talked about a number of months ago, Lengy's, which is the castle, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with in Chester, had a pilot and a sales tax exemption with us. And, we had extended his sales tax and extended the pilot. But at the end of the day, considering everything that's happened with COVID, and I'm sure that a lot of people noticed, it was in the paper that he was entertaining the option of putting the castle up for sale. So he has a sales tax exemption that's expiring. Melanie spoke with him. He's not interested in renewing it or extending it. He's not going to be able to complete the full extension and expansion that he had originally applied for, which I think we can all understand why, certainly with this year having been what it was for him financially. So he no longer needs the funds, but he has created jobs. He has maintained his jobs figures. He has just closed though, for now for the winter, and plans to reopen in April. But the overhead is really difficult because there are so many restrictions on how he's able to operate. And especially with the second wave now, it was a better business decision for him to close for the season and then reopen in April. So that being said, he's in his 4th year of his pilot. So he's another one of those projects that we're likely going to see has struggled with their jobs figures. And when we report those to the board, of course, we'll have a larger conversation about it. But, Mary Ellen, Vinny, and I had a meeting with the county executive also earlier this week, to talk about the fact that probably across the board, regardless of whether they're manufacturers or hotels, we'll likely be seeing a dip in jobs figures. So in this year, we're giving the projects the opportunity to explain any discrepancies in their jobs figures. And we anticipate that almost all of that will be related, if not all of it, will be related to COVID. We'll talk about this a little bit as well in Accelerator, but we've recently launched, I'm sure if any of you follow the IDA or the Accelerator on Facebook or Instagram, we've launched a campaign, #OC Open for Business. Melanie has worked really closely with Dean on this to get out the message basically of companies who have weathered the storm of COVID. And these are storms that we have personally touched. So whether they're business storms, no, they're businesses that we've personally touched. So whether they're ones that received COVID loan funding or ones that were working with us through AWOW, through their PPP loans or their EIDL grants, these are all businesses that we worked with really closely. So I encourage everyone, in order to get the word out there, the whole thing with social media is the more engagements you have, the better and more promoted and more accessible and visible it is. So for all of you who are active on Facebook, please go and like it and share it and do what you can to get the word out, because this is really sort of the first step in what we're doing to better communicate the services of the Accelerator and of AWOW. We're also working with one of our Accelerator companies with the pictures, Everett, it's EC Media, I believe is the name of his company. So he's donated some time, and we'll be paying him for some other of his time, but he's done a really beautiful job of taking the photographs and working closely with the team. Also in your packet was a Camp LaGuardia executive summary. Bill Fioravanti provided that actually last month, but I just missed it before the meeting date. So there was also a story in the paper about that. They received one bid, but it really wasn't satisfactory. They're still going to actively though market it and try to find some way and some user for it, or maybe a creative use. And then 3 last things. There was an article in the Mid-Hudson News and in the full paper about a spec facility in Goshen, a 500,000 square foot spec warehouse facility that broke ground. And then they had mentioned that they were seeking benefits. And then there was another article to follow on to that, that the benefits or the seeking of benefits were opposed by both Senators Metzger and Skoufis. And just to let everybody know, I mean, that's not a conversation we've had early on. We heard about a spec building, but this board had made a decision last year not to incentivize spec. So we had said that, you know, unless an end user was identified, we wouldn't be entertaining an application. And now I believe that since they've made the announcement that they're coming and the ground has been broken, I mean, I presume that's a conversation we would have if and when they reach out to us. But to be clear to everyone, we have not had any conversations about any incentives for that project, nor at this point am I sure that they would be appropriate. But I would, we will cross that bridge when we come to it.
And what would be our stance on that? I mean, you know, I mean, we had this situation with Al Mulrad, and I've spoken to him since that situation, but I mean, he'd broken ground and we denied benefits.
Right.
Even if there is an end user, would we, you know, it'd be tough for us to, I mean, they're coming there anyway.
Right.
You know, and I don't normally agree with those two senators because they you know, they have a whole misconstrued perception of, you know, corporate welfare and actual benefits. So, but it's going to be a tough sell for a company that's coming here anyway, to get benefits, even though we want companies to come here, right? So,
well, I speaking for myself, I mean, I think the you know, the word spec disqualifies them immediately, because if you're speculating, that means that you're doing it for investment. You're not doing it because you have to be incented to come there or because you need some kind of you know, financial assistance in order to move your business or your company. So whether you know, a final company gets identified or not, you know, again, it's a real estate investment transaction, and you know, you guys know how I feel about that. And even if, you know, unless there's some compelling reason that, you know, let's say, you know, they're really fantastic jobs or something like that, that would, you know, give us cause to maybe have a different outlook. But my personal opinion is that I would be opposed to that.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough sell with me too, I think, really. So
I would agree, but by the way, with both of those sentiments, I think that once an announcement is made, you know, there's a very strict rule at the state level. If you're going to get any incentives from the state, you know, you can't make the announcement that you're coming there already. And there's really a difference in our incentives than there are in the states, right? So I think that, you know, in our jobs as an IDA, it's really important to weigh all of the elements here. But if the announcement is made and companies want to be here, I think it would be unwise to move forward with it, and I don't think it would be appropriate.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So last two things, there was yesterday, Russ and I attended the Association of General Contractors conference to talk about IDAs. It was a group of people. I mean, it was on Zoom, so, you know, you can't see who's there necessarily, but they had a large attendance, as we were told, and we talked a lot about IDAs, and it was me representing kind of downstate Orange County, and then and the executive director of the Monroe County IDA. But it was a nice sort of overview of not only how IDAs work, but how important local labor is to IDA projects and to the developers that come in, because primarily the focus was the GCs and construction managers who work in tandem with developers. And again, putting that message out there from an IDA perspective that one of the more, of course, we care about permanent jobs, right? That's natural, that we all know that, but that it's also important as a developer or as a project operator to engage your local community during the construction process, during the permitting process. So I think that was very helpful too, to get the word out to everybody and not just like our typical site selectors. And last but not least, during my prep for that meeting, we kind of had this thought about Amy's Kitchen that, you know, we just approved an extension for Amy's Kitchen sales tax exemption last month. As a reminder, the Amy's Kitchen project was approved in 2014, and they have yet to actually start the construction on the manufacturing facility. Right now, as we understand it, it's primarily focused on the science of the soul. But since we've just increased that not increased, but extended the sales tax exemption, we engaged Loki Brill and connected them with Amy so that Loki Brill will do a site visit. Again, it's not an audit. We don't have the authority to audit them at this point because they did apply and were approved before the audit, the labor policy was approved and adopted. But we do reserve the right to do site visits and spot checks, and it's in our best interest to do that anyway and just kind of get a feel for where the construction is. They did use some of their sales tax for site clearing, so we're going to have Kevin Loki just confirm the things that have already been done on the site and talk with the construction manager who is on site about what their trajectory and timeline will be. So we'll be able to report more thoroughly on that in January. And with that, I have Oh, I do have one last thing. We just got our insurance information for, actually only for the OCFC, but we anticipate we'll be getting it for the IDA as well for our D&O insurance. Both of those insurances expire after this meeting. So we will send out a letter to an email to the audit committee when we get the quotes for approval, and then they'll be presented as normal at our January meeting, but we do have to cut those checks prior to the next meeting so that we're all covered. So that will be coming to those audit committee members within the next month. And with that, I am finished unless anyone has any questions.
Okay, thank you, Lori. So next up is the Accelerator report. So Vinny, I guess you're going to do that, or Eddie, are you going to do that? Eddie, you're muted. Ed, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Yeah, Marielle, I think Vinny could do it, but we're going to bring one company in to talk a little bit like we always do each month. And then Vinny will give us a report. And Vinny, I believe, did a little more extensive report this time to explain where we are with the accelerators and various things. So Vinny, why don't you take over?
You're too, Vinny.
You're on mute.
Okay.
Is Pyle on?
Yes.
Is Pyle on the line?
She's
Okay.
coming in.
All right. So I want, we're going to start with, as we've done before, we're going to start with one of our AWOW Accelerator Without Walls clients, which is Cafe Spice. And I'll introduce our good friend and colleague, Pyle Malhotra, who's one of the owners of Cafe Spice, which is in New Windsor. I think it's New Windsor, right? Not Town of Newburgh. Is that New Windsor there? It's New Windsor. So hopefully Pyle will, I know Pyle will give you a sense of how the accelerator program that you guys run and fund has helped her company and how that has benefited Orange County in particular. Pyle, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
My name is Pyle Malhotra. I'm with Cafe Spice. We came to New Windsor almost 10 or 11 years ago, and we've been working with Vinny, Lori, and the whole IDA team for a long time now. They've helped us through many points of our business. We've been needing to grow our space because we outgrew what we're in, and we were looking to first move out of the state. And I spoke to Vinny, and he's like, no, wait, don't do that so quickly. Let's go through some options for you. And we looked at, he came in, he spoke to us, we looked at different options, and at first then we said, okay, fine, we found this big enough space in Beacon, so we'll just move to Beacon. We're still in New York State, so that's a good thing. And then they still sort of drew the attention to us of like what we had over here, which is we've created a good team. We've worked with them. We've trained them. They're all local. Most of them come from the city of Newburgh. So it would be very difficult to move all our team members to Beacon. And, we started seeing that we want to figure out a way. And that's when they came up with an idea, like maybe you could run 2 facilities. And, if there's certain things you need help with, like whether it's training people in a sense, like some people need to learn English and you want them to get a GED, you want them to get an education, we can help with all of that. And they did. And so we've now decided to keep our current facility. We just did the numbers. And if we calculate everyone that we have right now working with us, as well as we outsource a sanitation team, we have some temp employees right now that we're looking to become full-time. We're having a little difficulty finding the people, but we're looking at about 199 employees right now, which includes everybody and just our facility, not including temps, not including anyone else. I think we're at about 140. So we hope when we have our new facility in Beacon, we will still keep everybody here. That's the plan, because we're going to use this more for the side of our business, which requires more labor, more hand, like we're in the food manufacturing business. So if we're making a burrito, for example, that's being done by hand. And that's what we're looking to grow this facility. We have the opportunities. And now that we've figured out a way for us to stay here, which makes sense, which, you know, we're not having the same issues that we did, finding the right people, then that's what this facility will be used for. And then we will use Beacon for our larger batch production because we have height space there. And we were able to then get a smaller facility in Beacon that we are retrofitting right now. So the IDA has been very, in the Accelerator team, they've been great at sort of walking us through so many different stages of our growth. You know, they came in, they did a SWOT analysis with our team members, which did not include the executive. So we could see really what is it that everybody feels, not just everyone that's sitting in the office, or not just people when they're talking to us, they say something different. So it was really great for us to learn that about our company. And I think for the most part, everyone's happy, which is a good thing. There's certain things that we had to work on that looking at it, we did, but they've always sort of been there, and it's a phone call. That's all it takes. It's a quick phone call or a text message like, hey, we need your help with this. Can you help us out with this? You know, when COVID started, we didn't know what should we do. We thought, you know, maybe we should like set up testing for every employee every day. And I reached out to Vinny and he said, okay, let me speak to somebody and get back to you. And then they came back with, you know, rather than doing that, you should have everyone do a health check before they come in, which we've implemented. And luckily we've been able to stay open through COVID. We did lose the part of our business, which was like corporate cafeteria, dining, hot bars and things like that, because, you know, all of that stopped, but we kept pushing our retail line. And any issue that I have, I always reach out to the IDA. And I think it's so great. We were like 6 or 7 people in our plant, and now we're at over 100 people. So and with our new plant, we should get to more. So we're almost at 200. So yeah, so it's
You're almost at 200.
Yeah, we're almost at 200. So it's been a great journey, but more than anything, it's been so wonderful to have the support, which I don't really know if we would get anywhere else. So yeah, and Orange County, you know, it's just very special. Now as we open our facility in Dutchess and we're working on all that, it's not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just not the same.
Wow.
Thank you, Pyle.
Thank you.
That's a good
Do you
story.
have a question?
Yeah, it's a very good story.
Very good.
I just want to say that I see the recording button on. I hope you recorded Pyle's story. And I know we had one with Mike Esposito a while back. And, you know, maybe we can email these to legislators and they can better understand all the great work you do with AWOW and helping companies, you know, so many of them in Orange County. And just stories like Pyle just said, you know, I think would educate and impress quite a few legislators, you know, because I think there is a misunderstanding out there about what the Accelerator and AWOW, with the AWOW program as well, do. So please send some of those stories to legislators, if you would, before your presentation at E&E. Thank you.
I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any other questions for Pyle? I forgot it's my okay. Any other questions?
You're the proctor here.
I'm sorry. Denise, Eddie, and Mary Ellen had an opportunity to speak to Pyle earlier at the Accelerator Committee. So
Yep.
Yeah, well, thank you, Pyle, very much. I mean, we're really glad that you guys stayed and that, you know, you've been able to survive during the COVID and expand. And we wish you a lot of good success on a going forward basis and be happy to help you any way we can at any time.
Thank you so much. Your help is always appreciated. Thank you very much.
Take care, Pyle.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good
Good
weekend,
luck. God bless.
everyone. Bye.
All right.
Okay. Am I back on?
Yes.
Sure.
All right, so now I'm going to go through a 2020 wrap-up review of the Accelerator. And for those of you who are newer on the board, there'll be a little bit more history here. But I will try to move through as quickly as I can. Stop me if necessary. And also, at the very end of this, Lori, if you can help me out, we have two very short videos that are less than a minute each, and I'd like to play them then. Okay, Lori?
I have them.
You have them? Okay.
I have them.
So we'll do it right after the last page of this. Okay? Okay, so let's go. First page. Okay. All right, so when this board decided to relaunch the Accelerator, the mission was to make it a catalyst to grow economic development in Orange County in sectors that were emerging, had a future to it, and were not the traditional sectors that Orange County played in. There's plenty going on with getting warehousing and distribution centers and utility plants and all of that. The vision was, let's reach beyond that and experiment a little. Also, there was a feeling that there was a fund balance that the board was willing to spend. There was only certain ways they could spend it. And this was a project that they had agreed to spend on long before I was ever hired as a contractor to come in and work on the project. So the Accelerator Catalyst for Economic Development in Orange County, the mission is that every company, every manufacturing company, small, medium-sized manufacturing company in Orange County is eligible to be a part of the Accelerator Without Walls and get those benefits, which I'll describe later. But our interest in working with them is for their retention, just like you saw with Pile and Cafe Spice. And I will tell you, there were other organizations that are in the economic development business that had worked with Cafe Spice for months and months, and a year even, to try to get them to stay here. The magic formula was we went in and helped their business. They saw value in that. And they decided that keeping this, they were open-minded to the idea we had about the handmade versus the more not handmade kind of items. They were open-minded. They wouldn't have been as open-minded before had we not endeared ourselves to each other. So they're an example of an Accelerator Without Walls company, but every small, medium manufacturer in Orange County is eligible for Accelerator Without Walls. And then we have an additional bolt-on program we call the Accelerator. And that is where we have taken over facilities where we've rented them and we've provided space and special services like facilities, equipment, hand-holding for startup companies. They go and we choose the clusters such as fashion manufacturing, cannabis, artificial intelligence, whatever it is. And then we put them in the communities where we think there is the best fit, okay? Also, as part of our mission, the board said, let's focus on up and coming emerging minority and women-owned business startups. And it was just a foresight of the board. So we did that. We've done very well there. We're at 74% MWBE companies in the accelerators. That did not happen because we went out and looked for certain kinds of people. That happened because, at least I believe, we created an environment that was open enough and many people came and the best ideas got selected, and this is just how it turned out. As you know, the on-site accelerator residents get additional services. So they're in AWOW, but they also get additional services like facilities, low rent, equipment, hand-holding, grant writing, et cetera. There is some overlap on the transition. So companies may be getting a lot of accelerator kind of support, and then they grow big enough and they're getting mostly accelerator without wall support until we move them out of the accelerator program entirely. And we've been doing this year, especially 24/7, because the idea was, given the pandemic, let's get ahead of and do anything we can to help. Next slide. The Accelerator Services, and I'll go in as much detail or as little as you guys want, but we have to be cognizant of the fact that reviews are important. So Accelerator Services we provide with about a dozen people who work for me and Galileo, and sometimes other people, are development support for companies. So for example, a company has an idea of a new product, but they can't quite move it over the goal line, and they need additional engineering or science help to do that. This year, we had a lot of that. We called it N95 masks, surgical masks. We called it gowns production. These were products that were never made here before. Not that they were made years ago and we were going to make them now, never made here before. And a company can't just open the box and say, okay, now I got the formula, I'm going to make this stuff. So when we pivoted, We had a lot of that development activity going on. Business distress issue resolution happens quite often. We have a very notable company in Middletown, for example, that the pandemic has affected their business in a big way. They have to file bankruptcy, but we're hoping to pull them out the other side of that and pivot their business into some other things. But we get many calls. The glue doesn't stick. I just lost my biggest customer. Target's going to institute an $80,000 fine if I don't ship by Friday, and I don't have enough people to make it happen. Now, you might be thinking now, well, that's what business is. And these small businesses, they should hire their own consultant or their own engineer and do that. And I will tell you, for those of you who've been in small business, there isn't the cash to do that. And in many cases, there isn't the energy. And that's why our businesses tend to not grow. So having this resource is something that these companies have taken advantage of. We do things like helping them become more efficient so that they could be more profitable. More profitable pays. So recently, for example, the starting pay rate at Orange Packaging went up $1 an hour. And that was based on the fact that we were able to find a more efficient way to produce a significant amount of the products they were making. That was in partnership with them and with the AWOW program. Investment readiness, companies tend to fail here because they don't have access to capital. And for those of you in the banking business, you don't give money to just anybody, and they have to meet certain criteria. Many of our small manufacturers don't meet that criteria. We've had to get alternative kinds of financing, and we've been able to do that. We help them with market development, finding new customers, things like laying out their facilities, debugging equipment as it comes in. We've done a lot of that this year. And a lot of that means because, especially when you pivot to PPE stuff, but even beyond that, we even had companies who are making toothbrushes, for example. A lot of the equipment that manufactures those devices in quantity come from China now. And once that equipment comes in, you can't just plug it in the wall. There's no manuals. There's no logic diagrams or schematics. And yet the company is totally surprised. They've just spent $250,000 and they have this piece of equipment. They need to get it running so they can make money, and they have no idea how to do that. We've provided that service. We do know how to do that. Enhanced throughput, cost reduction, problem solving, et cetera. And certifications is also a very big thing this year, especially in the PPE side of things. So if you think well, not if you think, as you may know, getting an FDA certification or a NIOSH certification is not simply going to a website and filling out a form. And for our small manufacturers around here, that's a big deal, trying to figure out something like that. We figure it out with them. If you buy that service, by the way, it's $30,000 to $60,000 per product. Okay, next slide.
I've got to run, you guys. Have a good holiday, everybody.
Take care.
Okay.
All right, Stephen.
Take care.
Hope it wasn't me. He's just like, okay. Anyway,
It's
not what he told me, Vinny. It's not what he told me. He said he wasn't staying on for this whole thing. I'm just kidding.
Right.
I'm trying to cut you out. Goodbye.
Bye. All right. Accelerator age. There was a lot of talk about companies being in Accelerator over 3 years. So I want to tell you where the 3 years came from. 10 years ago or so. When did the first Accelerator start here, Eddie? Do you remember the date, or Lori?
I think it was in 2009, right?
Yeah, it was 2009. Yeah.
Okay. 2009. So that's more than 10 years ago, 11 years ago. That was the thing. So if you went around and looked at the incubators, there were very few accelerators. There was a policy that you would go into an incubator and get out within 3 years. By the way, 90% of the incubators are located at research universities, right, not private sector buildings, not in communities that need them, in universities. That was the rule, 3 years in and out. Well, the policy that people tend to follow. There are people today that you all know that believe it's 3 years in and out still today. We have a different rule, and we're going to go through that with you guys, but it should be familiar to you. But I want to give you a sense of the 19 companies in the accelerator right now. This is their aging, okay? So in our fashion manufacturing cluster, which is in Newburgh and New Windsor, Inner Beauty Effects, which makes unique ladies handbags, which includes local artists on the inside of the bag, creating artwork. She's here less than a year so far. Lamberti, the Italian manufacturer of handbags, is here less than a year. Shelley Scott Designs, 1 year. She does, she designs and manufactures her own women's clothing, including she has customers in the Real Housewives series, which I think Jim DeSalvo knows a lot about. Mackie Rodden does shoes, line of shoes.
Nice.
Seiko Silk Screen is a silk screening company, 2 years. Zeal, which is in 605 Broadway, one of our premier companies, is just hitting the 2-year mark, and Mello is at 3 years. Zeal and Mello, by the way, are two of the companies that are on both in the Accelerator program and in the AWOW program, because they need more sophisticated help, but we're getting them to on the way out of us paying their rent and them picking up their whole thing. By the way, this is a time where I want to make sure everyone is aware of this. John McCary is working very closely with me. This has been approved by Mary Ellen and Eddie. And so John and I are working. John is a real estate guy. And so we're going to be very clever now about how we use the facilities we have now, as well as how we go forward. And I'll build more of that in as we go through the presentation. Next, and by the way, the asterisks indicate minority or women-owned business. Next slide. Our Cannabis Accelerator, which is headquartered in Warwick, but includes, excuse me, this is just the Accelerator, not the whole AWOW program. There would be other companies here. Keisha Labs, which has been here now 1 year, open, testing for both CBD and THC extracts. Urban Extracts, which is a CBD producer, that construction has now resumed, and they should be operating by the end of January, producing a drink, which is a CBD-infused seltzer that will be distributed by Pepsi throughout the country. Honey Buzz and Fusion CBD are there less than a year. Okay. I want to mention also at this point that we now have a new accelerator at Warwick, and John McCary loves this because we pay no rent, called the Manor House. Right, John? Okay, next page. Our personal care products and medical technology is in Middletown, right above Toro Medical College's administrative offices. These are the companies that are in the location right now. I won't go through them all unless you want me to, but Goats in a Coat and Farm Body are both there, and Drone Tech are both there 3 years. Here's the interesting thing. We, with the Accelerator Committee's approval, have agreed that rather than ask these companies to leave, they simply have taken over their entire rent payment. We don't subsidize them anymore, and they just stay in the building. That's better for them. We found out that's the same case for Mello and the same case for Zeal, because, and maybe the first round of Accelerator discussions in 2009 or 10 didn't discover this, but we've discovered this. Employees have unique ways of getting to work in Orange County, especially if you're an operator or a production person. So if you can walk to work, you get a job. If we take Zeal and move them 5 miles away and people suddenly have to be in a car to get there, they'll lose those employees, and those employees likely will not have a job. It's the same thing with Mello. He desperately wants to stay in the building he's in. He wants to buy his building or rent it. John has ideas. We'll figure that out. But either way, he wants to stay right there. Why? Because his employees can get there now. And it's the same thing with Farm Body, Goats in the Coats, and Drone Tech UAS. So rather than us saying 3 years, you're in and out, they could be out of the program. We don't have to physically throw them out of the building. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Any questions? Stop me. Okay. Everything I'm talking about is a strategy the Accelerator Committee has pursued, and now we're taking it a little further now with our real estate activities, which you'll see more about in the future. Next chart. These are in the actual Accelerator premises that we own, we rent, these are the number of jobs by year end that we project. So Zeal, which is at 605 Broadway, Newburgh, will have 20 employees by year end. They're staffing up right now to run the N95 mask line. N95 is the good masks, the ones that are obviously not Chinese and have the filtration built into them. Zeal won a grant from New York State for $400,000 and raised $600,000 on their own for $1 million to put in 605 Broadway this mask line. And so 6 employees had to be hired as in addition to run that line. Mello's at 10 people. Shelly's got a 2. Next chart. You guys can read the numbers yourself. Next chart. So there's a total of 76 jobs in the actual accelerator itself, okay? Not the accelerator plus accelerator without walls, just the accelerator. The brick and mortar, John, is that what you say, John McCary? Brick and mortar that we have, right? 76 jobs in the brick and mortar. Okay, next. And then these were the key companies that kept us the busiest this year in the Accelerator Without Walls program. So Orange Packaging with great success. I can tell you has hired about 170 people this year. They hired 170 people because on day one, they knew their business was going to close. They called us because of the pandemic. They made nothing that they could stay open for. They were not an essential business. They were in the retail display business, meaning when you go to a store, on the end cap, there's a fancy display that says, buy this DVD or this chocolate bar or whatever. They made that stuff. That was not essential. And so we immediately had discussions with them about pivoting. And they started with face shields, and now they're making millions and millions of gowns and other products. So, and they've hired 170 people, believe it or not. And they raised their starting rate to $13.50 an hour. We're on the way. We want to get to 15, but $13.50 an hour, and we'll see how it goes next. By the way, their comment on that was there's such a difference in the employees they hired at $13.50 an hour than the employees they hired at $12 an hour or $12.50 an hour before. So they're learning, and we help them do this, right? That there's a better way. So now if we can get them more efficient, they're willing to pay their employees more. They won't necessarily need to bring many more employees on board. FPS Apparel in Chester, New York, when we met them, they were an 8-person operation in Florida and New York, had declared bankruptcy at least once, and were really trying to find themselves. When they heard we had a fashion cluster, they wanted to be a part of it somehow. That company now is $10 million this year. I'm not sure I'm supposed to say that, but that company is $10 million this year, and they have now over 30 employees, and they're hiring 15 employees right now as they continue to grow in Chester. They, by the way, moved to 10,000 square feet in Chester, and they're right now trying to find additional expansion space. Amazing story. And you met that guy, at least the Accelerator Committee did. You met Jay Feinberg as he talked about that. Savastia, can't think of her name right now, but Savastia in Chester, New York, they've hired about 10 people this year. All of the equipment they purchased to run their manufacturing facility, all of it they bought from China. They had no idea when it came in that they couldn't use it. They had no idea. We sent engineers out there, we stayed with them, and we helped them bring it up to, I can tell you that was so emotional for them. Their entire life savings was put into this stuff, okay? And again, you could think, well, they should have just go and hire their own consultant, or they should have done this better. Small businesses are on a shoestring, doesn't matter. It's very difficult for them to succeed. Now they're succeeding. The equipment's running. People are being hired. It's what we want. Cafe Spice, you just heard the story. And it goes on and on and on. You know, again, Zeal and Mellow now are on both the Accelerator Without Walls and Accelerator because we're working. And when I say we, in this case, it's John and I, we're going to work to move them off of the rental subsidy stuff that we do and get them their facilities one way or another, okay? We also helped 140 businesses, because you asked us to, that were not manufacturers, as COVID response companies. So the good news is the Accelerator Without Walls teams are talented enough to be able to do that. We've helped bowling alleys. I personally have helped strip joints, gyms, clubs, et cetera, and all kinds of vacuum cleaner repair people, food processing people, 2-person operations, on and on and on. And we didn't just go and help them by applying for PPP or EIDL, or helping when you guys decided to do the $500,000 OCFC loans. We sat with all of them. We had conversations. We had team members talk with them. What do you need to survive? How can we help you make it through? And so I'm going to say that one of the reasons we're getting repaid our loans is because we didn't just give them money and walk away. We stayed with them through this entire process. Okay. Any questions on any of that? Next chart. And then there's leveraging. So we, when I say we, you guys put a lot of funding into this program this year. You raised AWOW to $500,000, and you'll see all of the breakdown of the money in the next slide, but on purpose, because you wanted to help the COVID companies, et cetera. That's all great. But I want to let you guys know that there was leveraging, meaning that other monies came to the table. So that's a picture of 605 Broadway, where Zeal is located. To the left of it is 603 Broadway, which is also one of our Accelerator buildings. To the right of it is the rest of the block. When we took this project on, that entire block was as needing attention as was 605 and 603. And now, if you go to that block, independent private owners have taken over the rest of the block, everything to the right. And now people call it Brick City, from 603 to the end of the block. And in that, other facilities right next to us, our neighbors are going architect companies, lawyer companies, all kinds of professional services, small manufacturers, all happen because buzz occurred, which is what any economic development person will tell you is what you want to do when you're in an urban environment like this. You want it to catch fire and take on. So that upgrade of 637 Broadway and Bristol blocks, millions of dollars have been spent there. Not our money, but millions of dollars have been spent there. Private investment in 603 and 605, our building, that's the Bloomer family. They put money into the building to assist in the renovations that were necessary. Why did we have to renovate it at all? Because that building, for example, 605, 30 years ago, was a ladies' coat factory, okay? And 30 years ago, you ran these buildings with a battery compared to what you need today, okay? And so any landlord, any owner of a building, to take it back and bring it alive, it's not just the money associated with it, it's the human energy required to make it happen. We could barely plug in 3 toaster ovens in that building without taking the power down. Now you're all thinking, well, they had lots of sewing machines and stuff like that. They did. Small motor sewing machines back in the day. We don't even make motors like that anymore. Doesn't matter. But to get that building back online, a lot of work had to happen. We did in partnership with the landlord. Zeal itself brought $1 million of private investment just this year. And that's the $400,000 from New York State, $600,000 in private investment that they raised to fund the N95 line. We reused zombie space. These buildings were empty. We created jobs in areas that need them because we targeted that as part of our Accelerator and Accelerator Without Walls program. And we said, and we targeted special needs. So for example, Mike Sweeten, I get it. Warwick is a wealthy community, understood. But that prison grounds to them was very important. They wanted to get it used. They had tried for years with the traditional approach to economic development, and it just didn't work. So when we went in with our SWOT analysis and we decided that the kind of companies that would like to be isolated like this, maybe in the cannabis industry, there was a lot of support for that, and now that's all happening. So all of these jobs, we brought jobs to areas that need them for whatever need. Our COVID recovery teams were activated. And then we had some partners like the Workforce Development Institute, which is a not-for-profit funded by New York State to help manufacturers. WDI gave us over the whole cumulative, over the whole time we've run this accelerator program, $247,500, which we invested in the clean room, in Middletown, in the laser cutters that the fashion companies are sharing and things like that. They're good partners. They continue to be good partners. They're right now trying to revive their grant giving program so we can use it for artificial intelligence next and to help us with that. And then the WDI gave grants to our accelerator companies, and accelerator companies in this sense is both AWOW and on-site companies, $106,000 for equipment for them to purchase. We ended up with 74% of our brick and mortar accelerator companies that are minority and women-owned businesses. Again, we didn't set out to do that, but I think we created an environment where everybody was welcome to come with their best idea. We found a lot of good ideas out there. Company attraction. Here's an interesting thing. So we have buzz now. So for example, in the cannabis and CBD space, now that our campus is up and running and there's enough information about it out there, we've had 2 marijuana companies, for example, call us and say, we're interested, and actually visit the premises. Mike Sweeten and others have taken them to look at the property, et cetera. And there's been that same effect in some of our other accelerators. We've got a lot of positive trade press. Next. The trade press, by the way, were in things like Women's Wear Daily. And now I lost it, the other one. People Magazine, thank you. Politico, all kinds of things. Yep. All right, here's our expenses. So this was our highest year ever. but we did it on purpose because of the COVID thing, right? So that was the intention. So GTG, Galileo, my company, to manage the accelerators, all locations is $376,000. We then had the utilities that we pay for in our brick and mortar facilities and the rent, $235,000 and $600K. And then we took that variable expense of Accelerator Without Walls, which is where we consult for any manufacturing company, or in this case, any company in Orange County. And this year we put aside $500,000. Next year, by the way, we budgeted $100,000 less for that. And we have a rental play that John and I are driving together that's probably going to save us about $150,000 on top. So next year alone, just going into next year, we're saving $250,000 if we just continue to do things like this. Other consulting services included our lobbyists and McAllister and Quinn, which was a federal, which is a company in Washington, D.C. that did helped us whenever we had a difficult time getting a company a PPP loan. Okay, so the pie chart shows of all of our expenditure, at least a full 25% of it is variable. So for example, if the board said tomorrow, no more AWOW, 25, that could happen. It can be done. The fixed expenses are the brick and mortar expenses that we have at the moment. So as time goes on and we have less accelerators, costs go down, or we start new accelerators, that'll all be board decisions, as every decision has been. Can I go to the next chart?
Sure.
And I want to spend a little bit of time on this chart. So John Steinberg was the champion of us trying to come up with metrics for the accelerator. He was never uncomfortable with the accelerator. He was very uncomfortable with being able to communicate the good that it was doing. And once we understood each other in terms of what he was looking for, we spent a lot of time, and we came up with the following metric that we've been using. And you saw some of this in the newspaper. The way we benchmark our cost per job is we take the total accelerator expenses, AWOW plus the brick and mortar, management fees, everything. And then we take all of the clients, which are all the accelerators, as well as the brick and mortar, and we divide. And once you do that, it's as you can see from the pie chart, this year we would have used 230 plus 76 plus 163 jobs affected by the accelerator funding that you guys provided. And the cost was on the page before us. Doing that division comes to $37.50 per job. Now, if you wanted to say, but just for brick and mortar, what is it per job at brick and mortar? It's much more. It's like $13,000 per job, okay? But we feel it's one program. So we always felt comfortable doing this. The other thing I want to mention is if you canceled the program tomorrow, the cost per job next year is zero. You're spending nothing, doesn't matter what the jobs are, right? And what we felt a good benchmark would be against our traditional pilots. So for example, if you look at McKesson and their full pilot, which is over 15 years, it comes down to, based on the number of jobs they're creating, and I'm not arguing this is good or bad, it's just a comparison, it's $3,700 per job for 15 years. So your accelerator jobs are created for this year at $3,750 per job. Stop the program tomorrow at zero. Keep the program going, it's $3,750 for as long as you want. But these pilots were committed to a long term, and if you're going to do an accurate comparison, you need to take that into account. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Next chart.
It does to me, Vin.
Okay. Okay. So this is, again, taking that leveraging from the other chart, the private investment that came in. TSEC, the not-for-profit that we work with, delivered us about $500,000 of equipment we put into the facilities. The WDI grants we talked about, both that came to us directly as well as to the individual clients. The private investment that came into the business. The neighborhood improvement, we're considering those other buildings in Brick City in Newburgh. So if you take a look at it from that pie point of view, in any case, there's about $5 million that came. Had we not done the accelerator project, none of that $5 million would have come to Orange County. That's the truth. Next page.
And that's what economic development is.
Yep.
Yep.
So before I go to this chart, I want to, John, I want to mention now what we talked about, okay? So we're working together, John and I, and we're really trying to figure out how we could be more effective in the real estate. Part of it is, as you all know, Mello has said, I want to buy my building. And we know that Zeal is getting positioned now to be able to rent their building on their own. We need to make that happen. And it's not that it's going to be hard, but it's not easy either. And John is helping with that. And then John has an idea on the AI Accelerator. As you all know, we've been working with a church that could be a co-lease renter with us. And John, do you want to say, why don't I stop for a minute? Why don't you go ahead?
In Highland Falls, that program, with the West Point is very important, and it's a great project for Highland Falls. But the church we've been working with now would like almost 2/3 of the billing, and we've been talking with them as of last week, possibly taking over our lease and us subleasing back from them, which we would probably take 2,500 to 3,000 square feet in the front portion of a building. And in the meantime, the church would have other full first floor plus 50% of the second floor. And it would make sense if they control a lease, because they could be a long-term tenant where we could outgrow a space and do something else in the future.
It's a good idea, John.
Yeah. And, that way our annual expense would drop tremendously if they are a lead leaseor of a building.
I think it'd save us about 150,000, John, roughly.
Right.
Yeah.
It would probably be a better deal for the landlord too, because they'd sign a longer term lease.
Yes.
Oh, yes,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it gives us the ability to be nimble, because if we grow, we're going to need more space, which is one of the reasons why we tried to secure that to begin with. So, but that would be a good problem to have, I think.
Right. And then I just want to mention again, and I so, for example, Town of New Windsor and Mello, and trying to figure out how he could either buy that building or take over the rent, not easy. A lot of negotiations are going to happen here. They basically told us no to start. We have to get moving on that. And anyway, there's work to be done. So I appreciate your help, John.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to finish this up now. So you have all seen this COVID-19 business outreach presentation before. So I'm just going to go through very quickly, because we put money in the budget to do this year. This was the most spending we ever did in the Accelerator program on purpose, because you guys wanted to get ahead of this. By the way, we bring you 1 or 2 companies every month to talk about how AWOW has helped them, how their business has survived because of the help you guys have given them. I can bring you 10 if you want next week. I can bring you 20 if you want. We can bring you all the companies you want. We have 200 of them or so that would be willing to come in and tell you how this has affected them in a positive way. I am personally proud of that. I get it. This is my baby, not my money. I get it. But I have to tell you, I hope you're all proud of this program, because it has helped. It's helped your neighbors. So, okay. So we helped a lot of companies get the PPP loans. Today, I got so many phone calls you can't believe, because people are starting to figure out that the forgiveness of the PPP loan, especially if you're an S Corp, but it seems like any kind of, now that becomes taxable income when the loan gets forgiven, and people didn't plan for that. So there you go. Anyway, we ran lots of webinars to provide people information. We did incredible amounts of one-on-one, not just, hey, take everybody's temperature. We went to buildings. We sent our team out to buildings to figure out how to put plexiglass in the right spot, or how to space people, or how I'm sorry, but now you have to put your people across 3 shifts because we can't fit them all. And we did that very hands-on. Next chart. Okay, by the numbers, this was the number of companies that we helped, and and over $10 million was brought to the businesses through the federal programs as a result of putting all this together. You can see 750 people attended our webinars, for example. They were all very well done. And that's why our other contracting line, when we did bring companies to the table, we put US experts on the other side of the webinar. Okay, next chart. We're almost done, guys. Okay, I'm just showing you the sectors that were affected by this. And I think, interestingly, the districts that we work in. So these are the 21 Orange County legislative districts, and these are the number of companies, and this is only for the COVID, the 140 or so businesses that we affected in the COVID. So the stuff on the left, those sectors, and where they ended up in the, so you can see Orange County Legislative 19, District 19, whatever that is, 10 of those companies had our attention. Okay, next chart. Okay, I don't think we need to do anything with this chart. Next one. Crisis continues. You guys know that. You know about this already. We're very worried about, next year. We want to keep everybody moving along, of course. And so just as a key takeaway, so we assisted, here it is, 190 plus companies to retain jobs, over 200 jobs, new jobs were created this year in the Accelerator universe that you guys helped fund. You've met them, Orange Packaging, FPS, Savastia, Cafe Spice. We're not, when we count jobs, guys, we undercount them. She just told you 200 jobs alone that were leaving Orange County. We did not count 200 jobs, obviously, in this number. We did not do that, okay? Because we know that we're always under the microscope, so we rather hurt ourselves. The OCFC deployed $500,000 in loans to the Orange County companies in need, and we still hear from some of those companies in terms of how that helped them. At the moment, projected savings in Accelerator for next year is, John, this I put about, I think we'll save, based on what you and I talked about, $150,000 in the Highland Falls rent, maybe more, but $150,000. I didn't count any of the other rents. I know you have other ideas. We'll work on that. There'll be additional monies. And we already have reduced the Accelerator budget for AWOW next year from 500 to 400. We could do more, but that's, so next year we go into the year $250,000 richer or less spending than we did this year. That concludes my presentation. Any questions before we show you the two quick snippet videos?
I would like to make a comment. That PowerPoint presentation would be great if the board members will have a copy of it. So, there are a number of good talking points in that PowerPoint.
Yep.
It was, great to look at, but, something in hand to refer to a month from now or something is good.
Okay, you got it, John.
Mike Paduch is in legislative seat 19. So maybe
really?
you should, maybe, we should reach out to him and let him know how many people we helped, how many businesses we helped in his district.
Right, or somebody who can communicate with him. I agree.
Right.
I'm blaming myself for the communication. Okay, so can we do the first quick video? This is a gift from some of the Accelerator clients to the board. Go ahead. No sound? Oh, we wanted sound. Well, then forget it. Can't do it without sound.
Oh, sorry. You can't hear it? Dean, why can't they hear?
Did you?
You'll have to email it to us.
Melanie,
okay.
Yeah, we will. But Melanie, Melanie, if you don't have your mute on, play the video a little more. Let me see if we can hear it. No good. Okay, let's see.
All right, I'll email that in the presentation.
Sounds good.
All right.
You put it up on the website?
We are working on that right now. Putting it on the website also. We are going to divide it per company because it features several companies and then feed it through Instagram.
Do you think it could be to do with the headphones? Like if the headphones. Okay.
Okay, well, please, everyone, promise us that you watch the videos. I think it will be very heartwarming. Is that a word? Heartwarming?
Yes, they are heartwarming.
You guys, and it's their little thank you gift to the board members. Okay, any questions?
Good job, Vinny.
Thank you.
No, it was a good presentation, Vinny. It laid it all out. Anybody that's has some reason to look at this certainly would be very informed over this as to what went on over the years and what's happening now. It's very self-explanatory. Yeah. So I think it was a good job. Very good job.
Agreed.
And I have had the opportunity to speak to only four legislators, Kevin Darian Lujan, Jim Colson, who actually came out and visited the 603 and 605 Broadway, John. And today at 4:30, the mayor of Newburgh is coming and 2 city council members. We've tried so many times to get people to come out. And it was Kevin Darien who actually pushed the button and said, you guys got to come see this. And then and then the other 2 legislators we spoke to was Tom Fagione and Kathy Stengenga, who we were able to have a very decent conversation. Both of them saying, never knew this information. I wish we could have had the conversation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I tell you that just as maybe we've got to go one-on-one to you know, to get the information.
To get the message out, yeah.
Okay, that concludes my presentation, Larry.
Very good.
Okay, thank you, Vinny. So next up on the agenda is resolutions, and the first item is GAM Property Corp., the STE extension resolution.
Correct. So there was a request. GAM is they're the manufacturer of party supplies and distributor of party supplies, and they're in Goshen and they're expanding. But of course, like everyone else this year, kind of threw a wrench into their construction process. So their construction was delayed to COVID, so they're requesting that their sales tax exemption package be extended for the year of 2021. And I believe Kevin has a resolution.
There haven't been any issues or problems or challenges with them?
Not at all.
What's the name? Oh, Kingsack is the name of the company, right?
Correct. Kingsack is the actual name. Yeah, their only challenge has been the COVID
right, sure.
delay. Okay. But yeah, other than that, their labor is fine. The project is moving along. Their demand is still there, so they're good.
Good. Anybody have any questions or comments before Kevin reads the resolution? Okay, hearing none. Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, thank you. Resolution authorizing the Orange County Industrial Development Agency authorizing the extension of sales and use tax exemption benefits granted to GAM Property Corp. through December 31st, 2021, and the execution of related documents.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jim. Do you need to take a roll call or just?
I can if you wish, yes.
Yeah, why don't you?
Sure. Mr. Diana?
Yes.
Mr. DeSalvo?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher is absent. Mr. Gatos?
Yes.
Mr. McCary?
Yes.
Ms. Quinn?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Rogowski?
Yes.
That's 6 ayes, Madam Chairwoman. Resolution adopted.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and then we have Airport Properties 8.
Correct. So Airport Properties 8 is the hotel that's at New Windsor at Stewart. And the unfortunate part with this one is I don't think is even delayed due to COVID. It's delayed due to the fact that they're still negotiating with the Port Authority. For everyone's reminder, if everything had been executed, it would have expired 12/31 of 2020. But at this point, they're still trying to move forward with the Port Authority in order to actually close and start construction. So typically, we have a resolution expiration date, and we require that on an annual basis, each project that has a pending approval either give us a reason that their project hasn't gone forward in that year, or either withdraw their application or resubmit. So we checked in with Airport 8, and they had a lot of issues with the Port Authority approval process, including asbestos abatement, approval of sublease agreements, FAA permission, and TAA process. So they're still planning on moving forward with the process. It's just taking, I'm sure to them, a very painful amount of time to get through everything. So, and Kevin also has a resolution for that.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments?
No.
And Lori, just so people understand, the first hotel they built was Homewood Suites. Their intent was to build a second one, and it had to be on airport property and that's why there's a lease involved with airport property. So that's the issues. So I think we should continue to expand it for them because I think they really want to build the second one, but they have to have all the T's crossed in order to do that.
Right. So. Right. Yeah, well, a lot of things changed from the original contract as terms
exactly.
of expectations, so we're working that out.
Yep.
So, but they're good operators, and there's no issues that way. So I agree. I think we should continue to support them.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Kevin. Thank you.
Okay. Resolution authorizing the Orange County Industrial Development Agency to, one, extend the authorization provided under that certain resolution dated March 14, 2019, to provide Airport Properties 8 LLC with financial assistance in the form of a sales and use tax exemption for purchases and rentals related to the acquisition, construction, and equipment of the project, B, a partial real property tax abatement through the tax agreement, and C, if necessary, a mortgage recording tax exemption for financing related to the project, and 2, executed related documents.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to for the resolution. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Diana.
Yes.
Mr. DeSalvo.
Yes.
Mr. Brescher is absent. Mr. Gatos.
Yes.
Mr. McCary.
Yes.
Ms. Quinn.
Yes.
And Chairwoman Rogalski.
Yes.
That's 6 ayes, Madam Chairwoman. That resolution is adopted as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, so next
Sorry,
up,
Mariel, if you would like real quick, I can try one more time to share the video.
did you get the sound to work?
I can try.
Right. Take a second.
I'll give it one more shot. I think
Okay. All right,
maybe.
go ahead.
Feel like your job depends on it.
Rude.
Okay, let me know if you can hear it.
Hey.
Okay.
Happy holidays from Farm Body Skincare. We thank you for supporting our business throughout the pandemic, and we look forward to serving you in the future.
Happy holidays for one and all. We thank you for supporting Drone Cadets from today, tomorrow, and beyond. The best way to support Drone Cadets is by purchasing our Drone Camp in a Box. STEM for the next generational wealth of drone technology. We thank you and happy holidays again.
Hi, happy holidays from us to you. Exosoot's Organic Skin and Scalp Solution, your premier skin and scalp solution. We are thrilled that you all continue to support small businesses. We are at the Accelerator, Orange County, Middletown, New York branch, and Exosoot's Organic Skin Solution is running a 15% special for the holidays. Don't forget to continue to support your small businesses.
Okay, so there's one more. Would you like to see the second?
Let's do it.
Sure.
Okay. Give me 1 second to get that one set up. Okay. Okay. And
good morning, everybody. This is Ed McCauley with Fusion CBD. As we enter the holidays, I just want to thank everybody for their continued support and look forward to the future. As we enter the holidays, please come by our store at 176 Route 94 South and also visit our website at fusioncbd.com. We've got some great gift packages, which would be good for all the family and friends, with a variety of our topicals and tinctures and whatnot. And we look forward to a bright future together. Thank you.
Hello, happy holidays. I'm Marleen Vogelaar and I'm the CEO of Zeal. I am so happy for the support we've gotten this year in these tough times. And I'm so proud to share that with help of the Accelerator, Zeal will have N95 respirator mass production right here in Newburgh, New York, coming January. If you want to be part of our team and work with us, please contact us. For all of you, I wish you a happy new year and a really great 2021.
Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to my new shop right here in Newburgh. I will be offering a 20% discount from December 15th until January 1st for anyone who needs any new holiday attire. So remember, shop Shelly Scott and have a wonderful holiday.
Back to you, Lauren.
Very nice.
Thanks, Melanie.
Yes. Thank you, Melanie.
Okay, Melanie.
Okay, so next up on the agenda is attorney-client session. We need that, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so we need a motion to do that, I guess?
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. I need a second. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right, Dean, you gotta do your thing. Okay, thank you. So what do we have to do next now? We have to do the resolution.
Lori, I don't know if you have do you have it in front of you? We can just read the title.
I do. So it's a resolution authorizing the retention of the services of the law firm of Brown Weinrob in Albany, New York, to work in conjunction with its local counsel and transaction counsel on matters of concern to the IDA.
Okay, so we need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Okay, you need a roll call, or all those in favor can do?
I would think you might want to do a roll call on this one.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Various reasons, but
okay.
Mr. Diana.
Yes.
Mr. Brush is absent. Mr. DeSalvo.
Yes.
Mr. Gatos.
Yes.
Mr. McCary.
Yes.
Ms. Quinn.
Yes.
Chairwoman Rogalski.
Yes.
There's 6 ayes, Madam Chairwoman. The resolution is adopted.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, next up on the agenda is if there's any other board business, which I have nothing. Does anyone else have anything? Okay, so hearing none, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn, and then after we adjourn, we'll go into OCFC.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, do we get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.